I just want to acknowledge that this stuff doesn't come from me. Some of the tasks I have, you know, adapted, whatever, but lots of this stuff is based on the training that we received on the course Cymraeg mewn blwyddyn. Just a really quick background that I've been teaching a long time, as you can tell by the grey hair. But I've been mostly teaching year 6. But last year I went on a Welsh sabbatical where I became proficient enough in Welsh to become head of bilingualism next year in Chepstow School, which is really exciting for me. Before the course, I used to panic, especially about Welsh across the curriculum, when they used to say to me, oh, Welsh, you've got to do it in science and this. I just think, I have no idea how I can say like my name is, and that was it. I didn't have a clue how I could use Welsh across the curriculum. But now I've been able to support staff with that. So that's what I'm going to run through quickly now today. So while I was on the course, I had a perfect opportunity to reflect as a learner on what worked for me. And there were so many things that was a lot of fun. And that's exactly what I wanted to bring back to my class, that learning any language should be fun. And the things that worked for me best were the structure of a sentence builder, as you've seen lots tonight, because I didn't have to think of words myself. I could add words myself, but the structure was all there and I didn't have to reinvent the structure. And as a non-specialist, somebody who couldn't speak Welsh before, to me, that was amazing. The most important thing for me is that children start off at a really low risk. So you're not asking them and put them on the spot, right? You tell me what this is, what they've got a chance to. We use a lot of ghost whispering, so the teacher will model and then the children will whisper back so they can hear the pronunciation correctly from the teacher. And it's really, really low level. And some of the tasks, as you've seen earlier, are just writing down a number. They haven't even got to say any Welsh, they've just got to listen to the Welsh. And I think as a non-specialist at the time, I was just focusing on the output and, oh God, I am going to write it in my book, what am I going to do? Whereas I should have been focusing where I do now on the listening and the copying those Welsh sounds and the pronunciation. So I've changed my teaching completely. Yes, there's output, as you'll see in a minute, but a lot of it is low level at the start, really low level. And then children can determine which level they want to achieve next. Another point is that all of this should be in chunks rather than just words. So they're learning meaningful language that they can use across the curriculum. Sentence builds are, as you know, nothing probably new. Lots of us have used over the years. I've been teaching 24 years now. You know, we've used scaffolds before. We've used, you know, little frameworks for our less able. But I've never ever used them for my higher ability. Why? Why not? So with the Welsh now, it's literally changed my game in that I provide that structure for all, not just my lower ability, and we can change how we do that structure as well. So starting off with a lesson that I did with a year 1 class. So in the EAS scheme of work, when they do Dwi'n byw, they say, I live in the caravan, getting rid of those mutations, tricky. So they start off really basic and they use the patterns. They write Dwi'n byw. Now, what we were finding is lots of children could answer Dwi'n byw on a tee, Dwi'n byw on a flat, but they couldn't ask the question. So what I find is with the sentence builders, it gives them that chance to repeat the question as well as the answer. So as the others are saying, it's guess my sentence. I've written one down. I'm the teacher. I've written one down. You've got to guess which one I've got. So instead of saying Dwi'n byw, you're going to ask me Wyt ti'n byw, and I'm going to tell you ydw or nac ydw. So using flick and flack with my youngest, then I would use the sentence as well as the question. I think it's really important that they can ask and answer, because we were finding lots of them could answer, but they couldn't ask. So again, where do you live? And then we would move on to the actual places that they live and introducing the mutations. No talk about them, no, ooh, you know, just do it. Just as Matthias said, you don't need to point out the grammar. Oh, actually that one. And they just pick it up so quickly. It's unbelievable. So I had a reception in year 1 class, and I couldn't believe just how much they would retain in the lesson because of the repetition. Then we would move on to games such as Find Someone Who. So children have got a card. These could be differentiated, so you could have some who might, more able readers, bearing in mind these are year 1 in reception, that can read a little bit. Then I could, typically I've got a PowerPoint that it's making all the slide come up one at a time. So then I could take out some of the writing and put a picture instead, or I could literally just go to writing and a picture. Then I could give them cards. And again, these are differentiated. So I could just say, right, you've all got your little cards, now walk around the room, find someone who lives in Oakdale. So they've got to ask the question, they write in blue. Sometimes, as you can see in blue, I would give that structure on the card as well. Lots of modelling before this. I wouldn't say, right, let's play a game. Lots of sentence builder work before this to get to this point. And then I'm more able, I could challenge even further by saying, right, find someone who lives in Blackwood and lives in a bungalow. And so it can be differentiated in lots and lots of ways, even as low down as year 1 in reception. Again, you could give them a card where they get the answers and write down the answers. Where do they live? And again, you could provide, if you wanted to, if you needed to, the structure of the question as well. To find that out, you need to ask this question. So before this would be lots of modelling, lots of use of sentence builders, lots of my turn, your turn, before they play any of these games. Typically, all the photos are appearing, sorry. This is one of my absolute favourites. So a lady called Claire Seckham spoke to us when we were on the course last year, modern foreign language expert in primary. This game, every year group in the primary love, and I've even played it with high school and they love it. So bingo torri allan, you're only allowed to chop off the ends of your strip. So if I call out dwi'n byw am Montlan Ffraeth, if you go at the top, Montlan Ffraeth, Pont y Ffraeth, that's our school in the middle. Even if it's on their card, they can't cut it out. It's got to be on the end, and they love it. It's like, oh, it's on my strip, but I can't cut it out. They absolutely love that. And again, you can make that words, you can make that pictures, you can up level it as much as you want. Because I said, I played it with high school children, they absolutely loved it, as long as you're using the key vocabulary to just drill. Oh, sorry, I've got loads of these. Okay, battleships. So the same sort of thing as sentence stealers, really. They're choosing one. At this stage then, we'd be writing down a sentence on the board. A child would choose a sentence, dwi'n byw and a T, or dwi'n byw a Montlan Ffraeth. They would write it down, and then their partner's got to find out which one is theirs. Again, you could differentiate it to just words or just pictures. The less able, oh, dwi'n byw in a caravan, but they can't actually read the words dwi'n byw in a caravan, but when they associate the picture, then they know exactly the sentences that they need to use. A game called Question Stamina. So one partner just asked the question, ble roi ti'n byw? Ble roi ti'n byw? And the partner's got to find as many different answers as they possibly can. And then the one that's got the most answers is the winner. Then we would move on across the curriculum. So they know the sentence pattern, they've done it in their Welsh drills, they know it. And then we would use that exact same pattern across the curriculum. So for example, the year 1 class, the topic was animals, living in the sea and living in the woods, and they were comparing the two. So again, same structure, dwi'n byw, but then just changing the place where the animal lives. And again, sticking to first person at the moment with year 1 and reception, and they picked it up straight away. So then again, sentence stealer type game, then I would introduce the same sentence, but then adding in the animals, the different animals that live under the water, and then the different animals that live in the woods. To go with this, there's so many games and things, so it's just drilling, same pattern, just drilled. Mind reading, have you got a fish, have you got a this, have you got a that? So they're just using the same language over and over and over. They just see it as playing games. They don't see it as drill or revision. They just see it as playing games. This is great. Somebody mentioned word wall earlier. It's actually one of my go-to favorites. This is just an example of word wall. Word wall is something that I can use on my Google Classroom as well and set as an assignment. So you just type in the vocabulary that you're using. And then the children have got a drag and drop, or there's quizzes, there's multiple choice, there's the games where you turn over the cards, and the game just generates it all for you. All you have to do is type in your key vocabulary. A Blue Kit is one that I use as well. I haven't got that on here. Somebody mentioned earlier what sort of online things to use. Blue Kit is amazing. It's like Kahoot, where it's a quiz. What I love about it is when you play certain rounds, it gives you instant feedback as a teacher. It tells you how much % of your class has got the answer right, which is instant, you know, gratification. Oh, thank God, 97% of my class knew this. But they see it as a game. They just love playing against each other. Fibbers is quite a nice game. One person has to say, well, I can name 5 animals, and then they've got to prove it if they can. And then the one that can't name how many that they've said is the fibber. And then again, this is from Word Wall, where the animal scrolls across the screen, and then they've got to find the one underneath that matches it. So you could do Welsh to English, English to Welsh. And I find that these are the things then that we put on the Google Classroom and assign them as an activity, so that, you know, when tasks are finished and they can choose, then they can go over and use the Chromebooks and things to play on these as well. So then more complex sentence builder, exactly the same pattern, exactly the same year group, just later on in the year. So we move then on to my morfil and byw. So instead of dwi'n byw, now we've moved on to third person by introducing the whale or the wolf, and again across the curriculum. And then, as I said, getting the answers right or wrong, I bring up the pictures and I put a cross on it. So I say, I ti'n byw, and then they could say nac do because it's a cross, and if it's a tick, they've got to say a do, and so on, so that they're getting used to the right one. So the same class then, in the third term, so they've just been doing a term on dinosaurs. Again, exactly the same pattern, nothing new. We just used my Tyrannosaurus and byw instead of dwi'n byw. So it's just exactly the same pattern across the curriculum. It can be adapted to whatever topic that you're doing. I always like to also bring in some reading and some reciting. So I always try to find, if I can, a poem or a piece of work that goes with that. This is the piece that they recited in the Eisteddfod, just for them to see it, you know, written out as a different form of writing as well. And then obviously then this speaks to them writing. This is free writing, my morfil and byw o dan y môr, and so on. This is a year, I think this is a year 1 child. And, you know, some of this was from memory. A lot of it they could do. Byw was a tricky one, so that one went up on the wall, always is, always YW. But so they had the opportunity then to write at the end product of what they were doing. Lots of other, you know, short burst writing tasks and other tasks along the way as well. So up leveling then to my year 3-4s, exactly the same, but with just extra parts to the sentence builder. So who do they live with? I used to, so using different tenses. So exactly the same pattern, but just using it with older children and extending. And again, using the correct answers, yes or no. With this then, you know, as Matthias was saying, I would say, how do I say this bit again? And I check with them with the, if I notice that the pronunciation isn't great, then that's a bit that I would focus on next. So Van Hailey, for some reason, some of them have trouble with. So I say, well, how do I say that one again? Oh, okay. And just go, right, how do I say, I live in Springfield in a, and then they would have to explain how to say those sentences. And then what type of house that they live in, and then who, with whom they live, or in the third person, and then even moving on to they live, Kai lives, she lives. So again, just exactly dwi'n byw, but just on a slightly different level. Bingo is a go-to activity. Lots of people have mentioned this already. And faulty echo, so I read something out and then I make a mistake the second time and they've got to underline which part that I said wrong, or if there's something missing. lots of these come with the sentence builders pack with the books. And I've actually been using the Spanish one with my class as well, and they absolutely love it. So typical lesson structure, I would use a warm-up task. So 1 pen, 1 dice, how many can you name in Welsh, whatever it is, just to revise. And then they would throw a dice. If they throw a 6, they can start writing, and it's a competition with partners. Only one person is allowed to write at any one time. I use it as a warm-up task. It's also with the Gianfranco stuff, is used as a translation activity, but I love using it as a warm-up just to get them started. Again, spot the missing word type tasks. They've got to work out which bit is missing. Then this is an example of a sentence builder I've used with Year 4, because their topic was water. So again, same sort of thing, making sure that they can ask the question, how do you use water in your house? So their topic was water. Same sort of thing. So it's all the same activities, just recycled and at a slightly different level. So new vocabulary. And then pointing out with this one, dwi'n brusio fy nanydd, I brush my teeth. But you would say, dy danydd, your teeth. You wouldn't say, I brush your teeth. So it's little things like that then that you would just mention, and they just pick it up straight away. And then sentence chaos, I would read out the sentences, but not in the correct order. Low risk, they just have to write down which number sentence that I've said. So same sort of thing. Question stamina, again, I said this earlier, they've got to give as many answers before they dry up. And then the winner is the one that gives the most answers. And then I hear, I say, shared. So working in partners. So they're just using exactly the same language over and over, but they just see it as games, repeating, using word wall, so they matching, finding the missing partner with a picture. And then across the curriculum, using sentence builders. So I think the story is, what do you like doing? So these are, I know I'm going really quickly here, but these are just, ones that I've used across the curriculum. So this is a Year 2 or Year 1, what are you doing? And then at their level, sentence chaos. And then again, the pyramids, 1 pen, 1 dice. I know I am really rushing through, we've seen a lot of these already. Then with my Year 5, 6, same sort of structure, but we're using past tense. What do they think of the Victorian school? And then leading on to pieces of writing. So it's my middle ability, Year 5. At the end of it, they had to write about, in their opinion, what the school was like and why. What was, why was the school bad? Why was the school good? What was there now? What is there now? What was there in the past? So using a mixture of tenses after all this build up, then this is the product at the end. One thing that I was really excited about is that with my English, I use something called Allen Peake sentences, which is like a structure for teaching grammar. But the sentence builders worked with my English writing as well. So providing a structure with grammar also worked with a sentence builder. So that was one of my really exciting discoveries, especially for my less able, and to, again, provide more vocabulary for them. So instead of saying it with the pit, they could say cavern, they could say mine, they could say quarry. So the most exciting discovery really is that, yes, they can be used across the curriculum, but we can also use them in English as well.